Hello and welcome back to Smash Hit Sports. Nick and I are breaking down the SEC today. Cue the music. The SEC on CBS. Best theme song in sports, by the way. I just want to get that out there.
It's gone, dude. It's Big Ten on CBS now.
Look, we have it for this year. Let me keep it for this year. But the SEC on CBS, which as long as they keep the song's still going to slap. But we're going to do our SEC preview. I cannot wait. We're going to start with Alabama, but before we get into Alabama, drop what your team is in the comments. We've seen a ton of views on these videos over the last couple of weeks. Really, really exciting. The show and the podcast is growing. We are up to like 135 subscribers right now, which is awesome. But if you are new here, drop your team in the comments. I will make a short responding to every single one talking about your team. So, and if you aren't subscribed, the hell are you doing? Hit the subscribe button. Be a friend, tell a friend. But let's get into this, Nick, because Alabama is a very, very interesting team. This is the most questions I have about an Alabama team coming into a season since like 2013. Dude, okay, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah.
What do you think about this Alabama squad?
Right, so I don't think we know who's starting week one behind center. We don't know, which is crazy. And we have the Jalen Milroe, who should be playing wide receiver. Is that his name, Jalen, or is it John?
No, it's Jalen Milroe.
It's Jalen Milroe.
He's not an SEC quarterback, man.
I watched him play against Texas A&M, and listen, incredible athlete. And honestly, if he wasn't playing on Alabama, I think he could be like a first-round draft pick just from dominating lesser competition. Hear me out. If he was in the MAC playing QB, you know what I mean? I feel like he'd dominate. I don't know. That's just me. So I think he's great, but he's just not. It's like Anthony Richardson, kind of, where he's not going to elevate your team. Anthony Richardson projects more as an NFL player than Milroe, but then we have the five-star freshman.
Simpson, Ty Simpson, redshirt freshman.
Ty Simpson. He's coming in. That's my pick, personally, but I have no idea what to expect, right? Again, we've seen five-star freshmen thrive at some of these big-name schools because they're well-coached. They have these good facilities, but it depends on the person. And then the third option is that Notre Dame transfer.
Yep, Tyler Buchner, which
should not start. But he might start week one.
Tyler Buchner is not a bad college quarterback, and he will not lose you games. But the problem with Tyler Buchner is he will not win you games either, right? Like that is you're going to get what you get with him. There is no highs, there is no lows. It is very consistent quarterback play. And I would not be surprised if they start with Buchner and then move to Simpson. But it's interesting, right? Because I don't think Tyler Buchner would have transferred to Alabama if it wasn't for the fact that that's where Tommy Rees went, his former OC from Notre Dame. So I don't know how I feel about the quarterback situation. Then you don't have Dallas Turner is back defensively. They have Kool-Aid McKinstry in the secondary, who may be the best corner in the country.
Yeah, he's
I don't think that's a bold statement by any means. They have some solid running backs, but not like they don't have the guy like they've had in the years past. They have some good wide receivers, like elite talent, all these skill positions, and their offensive line is full of a bunch of NFL talent. It is what it is. Their win total is at 10.5. It's insane to me that we are discussing a 2-loss Alabama like that's potentially normal. What are your thoughts on it? Because they play LSU is up right now. The West is really weird. The rest is really weird. Do you think 10.5 is the right number?
Yes, I do. And the thing is, I have every team from the West making a bowl, right? Like it's always been better than the East, but this year the East, Florida's down. Like a lot of these teams in the East are just going to be shit. Georgia has the most Mickey Mouse schedule of all time. Yep. So Alabama, I have going 10-2, and it really depends on what else happens in the West, because teams might beat up on each other, and 10-2 gets you into the SEC championship game. and I guarantee you Alabama wants to play Georgia. They want to get there. But maybe LSU goes 10-2, but has a loss to Florida State, so they have a better conference record. There's a lot of things going on, so I think 10.5 is perfect. I have them going 10-2. I have LSU making the championship game, which we'll get into later.
Okay, so I have Alabama at 11-1. Their win total is at 10.5. The over is plus 150. If you can give me an over, Alabama's over win total at plus money, especially plus 150, I'm absolutely going to take that. I've already locked that bet in. You're essentially saying, hey, if they beat LSU, I have plus 150 odds. I mean, I love that. I don't think I've seen a lot of talk on Instagram and Twitter recently that, Alabama has to worry about Texas before they worry about the SEC. I can promise you they are not worried about Texas the way they are worried about LSU and some of these other teams. So I have Alabama at 11-1. I think they're going to be very, very good at just about every position but quarterback. But that's the most important position on the field. You can't count out Nick Saban. Like, he is, if you had to start a university right now in the Power 5, would you pick a different head coach outside of Nick Saban? Maybe Kirby Smart, and I think that's about the only one you can say.
Yeah, I mean, Dabo, obviously. But, I mean, Saban, who was the Jake Coker, right? Didn't he bring Jake Coker to a national championship? So
yes, he did.
He can do it with bad – I mean, not that Jake Coker was bad, but, like, less than great quarterback play. But my thing is plus 150 on the over there. The way I look at that, I hear that, and that just feels like if everyone's slamming, especially the sharps, if everyone's slamming the over, that line's totally going to move and drop, but it's not. And so that makes me think that there are sharps out there. It's almost like it's a sign saying Alabama's not going to win 11 games because they're trying to get people to see, ooh, I can put 100 to win 150. That's amazing. Or 10 to win 15, depends on your unit size.
Yep. And they play a really interesting schedule. They play Tennessee, but they get Tennessee at home this year. They play LSU, but they get LSU at home this year. I actually have them dropping the LSU game.
Funny.
And still going 11-1. I have LSU at 10-2. But we'll get to the Tigers. Let's move over to Arkansas. There's been a hell of a lot of interesting discourse on Arkansas, and I don't know if you saw the graphic. It made its way around the internet for a while that KJ Jefferson being the best quarterback in the SEC this year is mind-boggling to me. If I had to pick right now, I think I have him as the 4th best quarterback in the SEC. I don't see it with KJ Jefferson. Is there something I'm missing?
Well, it's definitely interesting because, there aren't as many name brand guys. I take Joe Milton every day over Jefferson right now, but I think Jefferson's great. It's just starting to irk me because I'm looking at mock drafts, which I should not be doing. It's July, but
that is.
But I'm doing it anyway, and I've made my own mock already. It's crazy, but I'm seeing KJ Jefferson going like late first round. I'm like, there's no way that he's like the 3rd best quarterback in NFL, draft world. Yep. Just there's no way. There's people like Michael Penix and people in the ACC. I don't know. So I think he's great, but yeah, he's getting overhyped, and I don't love it. But I also just for a second to go back to Alabama, want to say that I have Alabama beating LSU, but losing twice to Tennessee and Texas A&M. So kind of just total. I figured you were gonna have a reaction to that, so I wanted to throw it in.
Okay, that's interesting because Texas A&M is a school that I have a lot of thoughts about. I have a lot of thoughts about Texas A&M, and it seems like we're going to be higher on them than a lot of teams. So that's really interesting.
We'll move back. I needed to throw it out there just so because I knew you would react in some sort of way because it is bold.
Love that. But at the same time, like Tennessee, if Tennessee's, we got to finish up Arkansas, and then we'll jump around a little bit because the SEC is so crazy because you have Georgia at the top and you have Vanderbilt at the bottom and everything else in between it. We don't know. We really truly do not know.
Yeah. All right, let's finish Arkansas.
Yeah, Rocket Sanders, though, for Arkansas is going to be electric. He's going to put up some of the best numbers in the country in terms of running backs. I think he will be up for one of the best in the country. That offensive line is pretty solid. They just don't have a ton of weapons on the outside, which concerns me again with KJ Jefferson. Sam Pittman's, I think he's an okay coach. Their win total's at 7. I have them at 6-6. They're bowling, but I don't have them faring well in the SEC.
Yeah, I have them at 7-5. I love this because I don't look at the over-unders, or at least I haven't yet. So it's fun when I'm kind of right on the money.
Yep.
But again, what's weird is I did all of my game-by-game predictions, and a lot of these teams I have going on like extensive losing streaks, which is, I don't want to have that, but it's just how scheduling worked out in the SEC.
Yep.
Because Arkansas, they start out 3-0, which feels pretty free. And then they drop 4 straight to LSU, A&M, Ole Miss, and Alabama before winning. I have them
dropping 3 of those 4. Yep.
Fair. And then I got them winning 4 and then losing to Mizzou at the end.
Yep. It's a really weird they have an interesting schedule because it's not like super front-loaded, or as far as like their ease. So it's interesting. Arkansas will be a very fun team to watch, at least from that aspect. Auburn is their win total 6.5. They brought in Hugh Freeze, right? And as much as you can build a program on hookers and recruiting violations, Auburn he's a hell of a coach. It is what it is. He is a hell of a coach. 6.5, I think, is way low. I think people are down on Auburn. I think Peyton Thorne, transferring in from Michigan State, is a serviceable quarterback. He's not going to be a Jaden Daniels or a Bryce Young, but he is going to be good enough to win football games in the SEC. Especially with what Auburn's schedule looks like. Their out-of-conference schedule is very, very easy. They play Cal, they play UMass, and they play Samford, as well as New Mexico State. So they have one of, if not the easiest out-of-conference schedules in the country. So that's an immediate 4 wins. I think this team can win 3 SEC games, especially since they play Vanderbilt, right? So where you need me to find 2 wins to get that 6.5 win total? I'm taking that all day.
Yeah, all day. See, I have them going 6-6, and let me tell you, it's a
no way.
Yep, it's a new culture in Auburn. They've been in peril for a couple years now, and they're switching everything, right? Like, pretty much the vets there they have to relearn a whole new system. We have a transfer quarterback coming in who I don't think Thorne's very good at all. I think they're retooling still, and I think that one of those 4 games in their non-conference, they will drop just out of like if you've watched the quarterback Netflix documentary series, Kirk Cousins talks about how he's learning the new system because they had, and I'm blanking on the coach's name, but their new coach comes in. And week 2, they get smoked by the Eagles, and their offense is dead. And it's like, well, I just didn't know. Like, Kirk's like, I didn't know what to do because it's too early. So I think I'm predicting, because Auburn's not very good, they're going to drop a weird one. I have it to Samford. I think it might be like the shock of the season type vibe. Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yep. And then, again, I have them winning 3 SEC games. I have them losing to Georgia, LSU, Mississippi State, Arkansas, and Bama. Standard. Probably they're underdogs in all those games. And then just one weird loss, and all the fools that bet the over are going to be crying.
Fair enough. I'm going to take the over. I have them at 8-4. I feel very good about that. I feel less good about it now that you had your little piece there, but I think Auburn is going to make a nice little comeback as far as what where their standing is in the SEC. They're not going to at least be irrelevant.
Well, they're making a bowl game. They're making a bowl game.
They're making a bowl game. Let's talk Florida.
Okay.
Let's talk bowl games. Florida's win total is 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
It is the second lowest in the SEC outside of Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
This is a program that is not where it wants to be. We are now in the second year of head coach Billy Napier. I don't have a ton of confidence in him to right the ship. 5.5. Looking at Florida's schedule, it is brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
No, this is one of those teams that I have going on a crazy extensive losing streak. They start with a loss because there's no way they can beat Utah twice in a row, especially with this team.
At Utah.
Yeah.
Utah.
Then they beat McNeese. Fine.
Yeah. Sick.
Right. Another loss there, but then wins against Kentucky, Charlotte, and Vanderbilt. And then, boom, 6 straight losses. So they're 4-2 halfway through the season. We're in mid to late October. It's like, oh, Florida's 4-2. Like, they're a lock for a bowl game. No. They're not going to hit their win over. Because those last 6 games are so hard. The only one I think they could win is that Arkansas game.
Yep.
And I think that Napier is going to lose his team after a couple of bad losses. And it's just going to be a disaster, and Napier's fired. But they have a great recruiting class coming in.
I think that's going to save Billy Napier's job. I think that recruiting class is going to save his job.
Maybe, because, if they fire him, they might lose some recruits. But, I mean, if they go 4-8, we'll have to see with that. But I'm thinking that Florida has a brighter future, but a really tough present.
That's fair. I also have them at 4-8. I don't have Florida having a winning record at any point in the season.
Wow.
Lost to Utah, they're 0-1. They beat McNeese State, that's 1-1. Lost to Tennessee, 1-2. They beat Charlotte, they go back to even, lose to Kentucky. They beat Vanderbilt, go back to even. They lose to South Carolina, lose to Georgia, beat Arkansas, and then I have them losing the rest of the way out. So 4-8. I don't have any confidence. Graham Mertz is looking to be the starter there. Everything I've heard out of that spring game is that he just does not look good. And I have no faith in that offense. I think that offense is going to be absolutely brutal. They have Trevor Etienne is their best weapon that they've got. But you can't.
Brother of Travis.
If you can put 8 men in the box, it doesn't matter. It does not matter how good your running back is. So
no, they'll lose by like 40+ to the good teams in the SEC this year. Just because they're not going to be able to put up points again. Like the Georgia game, right? I don't know, probably like 50-0 would be my prediction. I'm interested to see what the spread would be. And there might be Florida fans listening because it's a big fan base. I kind of grew up a Florida fan.
Great fan base.
Yeah, great fan base. I would love to know if you guys are hopeful at all, because I have no gauge on whether, the Florida Gator faithful are just throwing the season away already, or they're like, oh no, like we can go 8-4. Like I know it. It's like,
I mean, I'm sure they have faith in their team, but.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. You ask a Vandy fan if they have faith in their team. Right.
Look, we'll get to Vanderbilt. Georgia, 11.5. That is their win total. Shocks nobody. You are the 2-time defending national champion. Winning a national championship three times is very difficult. 3 times in a row is unbelievable. This team is a buzzsaw. They do not regress. They reload every offseason. But that being said, you now have a team that has a new quarterback in Carson Beck, which, all things considered, I've heard nothing but rave reviews about Carson Beck this offseason. Apparently he looks the part, plays the part, and he's been on this team, so he's been in the system, right? But you're replacing a lot of defenders. You're replacing a lot of guys on offense. You're replacing a lot
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this Georgia team?
Well, their schedule's Mickey Mouse.
It is such Mickey Mouse, dude.
It's absurd. They have one game that is hard, right? It's the Tennessee game, which is in like late November.
Yep.
So
at home.
At home.
Or
so,
no, that's in.
Oh, okay, it's in Neyland.
Yeah. Yep, it's in Neyland.
Okay,
so that is a difficult.
No,
game.
it's a legit one tough game, and the rest that you close your eyes and win, right?
Yep.
And so I hate that. But there's no getting around it. Like, I think they go 13-0 because if they have one game to look forward to all year, like, they're so good that I'm not worried about them dropping a weird one. Even last year, I was like, oh my God, they might lose to Missouri, right, in October.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Fuck. But then, like, they won by double digits at the end, I think, and it's just like maybe they sweat through a couple because they're just not, they don't care as much, but that Tennessee game, if that's the only game that matters, I don't think they're going to lose. And yeah, so I have them going 13-0, and they're the 1 seed again. But I will say, I'm willing to guarantee they don't win it all. I'm willing to put a stamp on that. There's no way.
The Nick Bateman guarantee. I mean, that's
doesn't happen that
sign, seal,
often.
Deliver that.
Yeah, they will not win it all. Do not bet on them to win it all.
I don't hate that one bit. I also have them undefeated in the regular season.
Yeah.
I have them undefeated in the regular season.
Oh, so you have them losing in the SEC championship game.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
You have Tennessee undefeated? No.
I have no. But I do have Georgia undefeated in the regular season. They're gonna be very good. Brock Bowers, and people are gonna be mad at this. I had Georgia fans in my comments telling me that I don't understand the sport of football, and to that I say you don't understand how like voting for trophies works. He's not a Heisman contender. Stop saying that Brock Bowers is a Heisman contender. He's the best tight end in college football. He might be the best individual prospect in college football and the best player in college football, and that won't matter a goddamn bit because he plays tight end. He is not a Heisman winner.
I don't know, Cody, because I feel like the Heisman always, or a lot of the times, goes to the best player on the best team. And if Georgia's just wiping through people against lesser competition and Bowers is putting up insane numbers, because especially with a younger quarterback who's not as experienced, they're going to want to throw to the big body tight end, right?
Yep.
They have Ladd McConkey, their receivers are fine, but
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like he's enough of a candidate for me to like keep one eye open, but obviously he should be like plus 10,000 still.
Yeah. I think he's outside the top 40 in Heisman odds. For what it's worth, like if I had to look at the schedule, like count the number of games. They play 12 games in the regular season. Do you think he plays in the fourth quarter in 50% of those? I would say he doesn't.
No.
I'd say 50% of the games on Georgia's schedule this year, he's not playing in the fourth quarter.
Does he even need to? Like,
yeah,
you know,
because they're going to be up big. Like
if he already has scored 3 touchdowns and it's 200 yards, which I don't foresee happening because I don't know, Georgia doesn't feel like they have it's kind of like a Clemson offense where it's not like built to win a Heisman, unlike a Lincoln Riley offense, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. And the other thing too is like USC is going to have to run with teams, right? Georgia won't have to run with teams. Their defense is stifling.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Big Blue Nation. But before we get to Kentucky, if you've made it this far, subscribe to the podcast. What are you doing? This is your reminder. Also, be a friend, tell a friend, send this to somebody. We got 130 subscribers. If half of you send this to one person, like that doubles the size of this podcast pretty much. So that would be absolutely huge. But Kentucky's win total is 7. They have Devin Leary, who transferred in from NC State after being hurt a good portion of last year. Kentucky, and this is not hyperbole when I say this, Kentucky may have had the worst offensive line in Power 5 football last year. They were terrible. It was horrendous. What are your thoughts on this Kentucky team?
Well, so let me just ask you, like, have they done anything to improve their O-line? Because I have the same thing written down, but I didn't really look into the transfer portal or...
I think they had one guy transfer in, but outside of that, I think it's just a lot of the guys returning. Like they return almost every starter from that offensive line. So I know it was, but like you're returning bad play, but continuity.
Yeah, they're 1 year older and all that, but it's. I mean, what I literally have written down is like Devin Leary is going to get beat to fucking shreds because, and like he's already been hurt. I don't know why he went to Kentucky, man. Their win total is 7. I didn't know that, but that's definitely surprising to me because I have them at 4-8.
Holy shit, we are way off on this.
Yep, I have them stinking it up in a
4-8.
worse SEC East. Yeah, I honestly think I might have them losing to Vanderbilt too.
That's insane.
Yep.
No way.
Yep, they go win, loss, win against like Missouri, I think.
Yep.
And then 5 losses in a row.
Wow, you have them losing to Louisville too?
I do.
Damn.
We already did. We did our ACC. I covered those.
Damn, that is right. That is right. Damn, I did not realize you were that down on Kentucky. That's crazy to me. What are your thoughts on
Leary, but
what are your thoughts on Mark Stoops as a head coach?
I don't know. I feel like it's just outdated. Like again, we've seen Kentucky, Iowa in a bowl game 2 years in a row now. Like, and those two teams are two of the worst offensively coordinated teams that I've seen. And Kentucky had Will Levis, right? They had a first or like a top draft prospect, and they just did not look good ever, in my opinion.
It's fair.
And so I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know as much about Kentucky as I know other teams. In Big Blue Nation, if you're listening, feel free to sound off in the comments about why I'm wrong. But I just don't see this team succeeding because there's no way that the SEC just throws out 13 6-win teams. Some teams have to be below 6 wins, and I have 3 teams doing it: Kentucky, Florida, and Vandy.
Yeah. Mark Stoops is 66-59 at Kentucky, so he does have an over 500 record with the Wildcats. I think he's a good coach. I would probably put him in my top 25. I think he's a top 25 coach in college football. That being said, I have Kentucky at 8-4.
Wow.
I have them at 8-4. I have them losing to Tennessee, Mississippi State, Alabama, and Georgia. But I have them beating Vanderbilt. I have them beating Florida. I got them beating Missouri. Got them beating South Carolina and Louisville. But that is going to be tough, right? Because the back half of their schedule, they got bye week and then Tennessee at home. They got Mississippi State in Starkville. Then they have Alabama at home, and then at South Carolina and at Louisville. Yeah. It is a brutal stretch. It is a brutal stretch.
Like it just feels like they would lose all 5 of those. The one that's crazy is me having them lose to Vandy, but I don't know. Just go Vandy. They get 1 SEC win.
Kentucky is so good every year at rattling off 5. Like if Kentucky was 5-0 headed into Georgia, like that wouldn't stun me, And then people are going to be talking about like, oh, Georgia with a top 10 matchup against Kentucky or a top 15 matchup against Kentucky, and then Georgia beats them by 40. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see it.
That happens every goddamn year, I feel like.
You're not wrong. I can see it, but I don't know. I have Florida beating Kentucky just because I have enough faith that Florida, just because they always play the same day every year. It's the third game of the season, and Florida just has Kentucky's number, kind of. So
that's fair. That is,
and again, that schedule is not easy for Kentucky, even though they're in a weaker SEC East. It's 4-8. Stand by it.
So let's talk about your SEC West champion from our initial talks, the LSU Tigers. Their win total is 9.5. Brian Kelly's second year down in the Bayou with his family. I fucking hate that guy. I didn't like him at Notre. I didn't like him when he was at Notre Dame. Like he was so hard to root for. He's just an asshole.
Yeah, he's a dorky, unrelatable guy.
Yes, absolutely. He grew up in Connecticut. Like he's
He's the type of guy, like, if I saw him, I don't know what the fuck I'd say. You know, like, Coach O, you'd be like, oh, Coach O, go Tigers.
I feel like I would have more in common with Saban than I would with...
Oh, yeah, Saban, I'd pick his brain. Like, he just gives off, like, a wisdom mantra. Brian Kelly, I'd just be like, hello.
Brian Kelly's preferred cocktail has gin in it. I can just tell.
Yeah, he's a gin and tonic
I can just tell.
I mean, no problem with that. But
oh, no.
He might be a Scotch guy, honestly.
That's fair, but first off, saying that gin is okay, we'll have that. That's an off-season conversation. I guess it is an off-season, though. LSU has Jaden Daniels. They are going to be very fun with him at quarterback. Their wide receivers are very, very, very talented. Malik Neighbors is one of my favorite. It makes explosive plays every time he touches the ball. He's going to be very exciting. They also have one of the most exciting players on defense in college football in Harold Perkins. He is a freak at getting after the quarterback. A little undersized as far as weight goes, but I don't think there's a true pass rusher that is better than him in college football right now. Maybe Florida State's defensive end, but we get to see him week. Yeah, Jared Verse. I'm excited for this LSU team. They're going to be damn good. They're going to be damn good.
I love their linebackers. I think they have a fine secondary. They're pooling in talent. Big transfer destination this offseason.
Yep. Logan Diggs transferred from Notre Dame's there, so they got a thumper at running back.
Yep, they have a returning quarterback with a returning coach, which is always good. And like you said, good wide receivers, and tight end. Like, I feel like we know what to expect with LSU. We saw almost a preview of it last year. But I have Florida State beating LSU, which last year it was so close, like as close as a game can get. But I feel like Florida State kind of looked the better team, and then it just was close at the end. And I just think Florida State, they remind me a lot of each other with, like, the returning talent. Their quarterbacks remind me of each other.
Right? Yes.
It's like they're the same team, different conference. And so that's a must-watch game. Like, if you're a casual fan, watch LSU Florida State this year.
I mean, out of, like, standalone Sunday night, you don't have a reason not to watch it. Week 1.
And there's no NFL on either. So just, like, everyone should watch that game. I have Florida State sneaking away with a win, but then LSU rattles off a bunch, loses to Bama just because I don't think LSU can get Bama 2 years in a row. Like, Bama's going to have that in the back of their minds that they lost to LSU last year, kind of on some BS. You know what I mean? Like, it was another really close, like, double OT game, whatever it was. And then the thing is, though, like I said earlier, LSU with an out-of-conference loss means they only have one SEC loss to Bama's 2. So in the SEC West, LSU gets to play Georgia in the SEC Championship, which they lose, making them go 10-3. But they do have the chance to win that game, and then all hell might break loose if they beat Georgia and go 11-2, you know?
That would be all hell breaking loose, because you got to put the SEC champion into the playoff, right?
Yeah, especially if their losses are, like, to Florida State and Bama, 2 teams that I have finishing in, like, my top 11.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Their schedule plays out very interestingly because they start with Florida State, which is a phenomenal Week 1 matchup, and then they start SEC play Week 3 at Mississippi State. Like, they get on this train early. They play Army right in the middle of the season in Week 8, which is a very weird timing for them to play.
Independent world, right? Or is Army even independent? Are they?
Yeah, they're independent.
Right. So, like, that shit happens.
And then Georgia State, obviously their cupcake game prior to the end of the season. But I have them losing 2 games as well. I have them dropping to Texas A&M the last week of the season. I'm high on Texas A&M. And then I have them dropping Ole Miss Week 5. I think they lose one other conference game. I have them beating Alabama, so we're on the same page there. But I don't trust Brian Kelly to be that guy, because every time Brian Kelly has needed to be that guy, he wasn't. every single time. And maybe this is me wishing this upon Brian Kelly, but he's when the cards hit the table, man, I just don't think he has it. So I got him losing to Ole Miss and Texas A&M, going 10-2, but with 2 conference losses. I have Alabama with 1 conference loss. Alabama takes the West.
Right. So pretty much just flipped because I have Texas A&M beating Alabama instead of LSU.
Yep.
I just feel like LSU A&M, always that Thanksgiving weekend rivalry week game. I don't know. By then we'll have a good vibe of where these teams are at, and I don't have Texas A&M close enough to anything spectacular where that game matters as much. But Texas A&M plays Bama sort of in the heat of the season, so that's just my rationale there. But yeah, I mean, if LSU can win one of those 2 games against Alabama or Florida State, we're definitely talking about a playoff contender. But for me, I have them right outside.
And this is going to be an unbelievably fun team to watch too. The offensively, defensively, they're going to be exciting. Mississippi State is in one of the most unique situations we've seen a college football team face in recent memory with the loss of Mike Leach, who is he was one of the best characters, coaches, whatever you want to call it. He was one of my favorites in college football. But Zach Arnett takes over the helm of this team. Their win total is 6-5. He was their former defensive coordinator. They hired a new offensive coordinator that is going to run an entirely different scheme than what Mike Leach had them do. Will Rogers, their quarterback, said at the SEC Media Day that he is going to be taking snaps under center for the first time since like middle school because he ran the spread offense in high school, and then obviously in college he's never been under center. So a lot of change in Starkville. What do you think of this Mississippi State team?
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked about this a couple episodes ago, but I really like the idea of an internal hire in a big-name school. You don't see it as much as you used to, and I feel like it keeps the culture. Will Rogers is probably, happy. He knows the guy. I like Will Rogers a lot, too. Like I think
he's a better quarterback than KJ Jefferson.
Yeah, in my opinion as well. He's got an electricity to him that I don't know who to even compare it to because it's not like Manziel, but it's something of the sorts. And again, this team, not that they're going to be team of destiny, but I just have a good feeling. There's a good aura around them. Everyone's going to want them to succeed type of vibe because of Mike Leach's passing and everything. Like Mississippi State's going to kind of be an America's team, and I have them pretty easily making a bowl. 7-5, could go 8-4, but I have them going on a little losing streak towards the beginning of the season just because they're learning a new offense. Will Rogers, like you said, under center for the first time.
Yeah, I have them at 7-5 as well. I feel good about Mississippi State as a whole. I think they are returning more guys than any other team in the SEC.
What's their win total?
Their win total is 6.5.
Yeah,
which I would take the over on that. 7-5, 8-4. I think is totally within the realm of possibility.
8-4 is possible. They got Arkansas and A&M and USC. I think they could win those. I have them losing, but I think they could win.
Yep, and their out-of-conference schedule isn't incredibly difficult either. They get Southern Miss in their cupcake game late in the season. They also have Western Michigan, Arizona, and then Southeast Louisiana, all those teams at home, which I feel good about all of those. I think 7-5 is right in that wheelhouse. I mean, there are some teams that just have more talent than Mississippi State right now. It's just the nature of the beast in the SEC. But I feel good about this team. Will Rogers is as far as his career, I mean, the guy has almost 10,000 passing yards, nearly 100, maybe 80 touchdowns. I think he has 82 touchdowns. That's a hell of a career. He's still got another season left. Like, there aren't many quarterbacks with more experience. The guy had almost 4,000 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last year. Like he's going to be just fine. Like obviously a new system, but if you're going to have a new system, doing it with a senior quarterback who has been there and won some good games is the way to do it. So I'm excited for Mississippi State. It'll be really interesting to see where this team heads this season. But
yeah, agreed.
Let's talk about the other team in the state, Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin's just – do you like Lane Kiffin? I find him fucking hilarious.
I do like Lane Kiffin, and I know that there was probably a 3-year stretch where he was probably like the most hated coach in America.
Fair.
Or in college football at least. And then he just continued to be himself. And people were like, oh, you know what? Like it's kind of like the Paul brothers. You know, like everyone's like, I hate the Paul brothers, and then they're like, well, I don't care, and they keep doing their thing. And now people are like, I like the Paul brothers. And it's like, okay. Lane Kiffin, same thing. I'm definitely interested to know what your thoughts on Ole Miss are, though, because I like him. I like Kiffin as a QB coach. I like their QB. I love their running back. And I feel like when you name 10 SEC players right now, like odds are an Ole Miss player is going to pop up in there.
Yep.
Whereas other schools, there's no way, right? But I don't know. They have a gauntlet, man. So where do you have them?
Yeah, I think Quinshon Judkins is the best running back in the country. I mean, he's damn good.
Give me Braylon Allen, but
it very well could be. But he's in that elite tier. I have Ole Miss at 7-5. I think they are a good team. The issue that I have with Ole Miss is their defense. I think offensively they're going to be fine. They're going to put up 40, 45 points a game, really without breaking a sweat, I think. I have a little concern about that defense. The back end of the secondary, their safeties aren't phenomenal, and I also don't have a ton of confidence in their ability to get after the quarterback. They haven't been able to stop the run in recent years, and I know they're changing up their scheme defensively. We'll see if that translates to better success in stopping the run on Saturdays, but it's why I was very intentional with the teams that I had beating Ole Miss. Like I have Arkansas beating Ole Miss, and that's very intentional because if Ole Miss cannot stop the run, Rocket Sanders could go for 250 and 3. Like that, he absolutely could do that.
Yeah, I think that's a shootout game for sure. Yeah, it's like a 55-52.
Yep, I have Texas A&M beating them. Like that, Texas A&M's got a good offensive line. Alabama's beating them. Alabama has a good offensive line. Like that, it's teams like that I think that can really run the football that I think will give Ole Miss trouble.
Yeah, and pass
so I have them at 7-5.
So.
Yep. What do you think of that Tulane game week 2? That'll be a fun one.
That'll be fun. I think a lot of people are going to want to take Tulane in that just because they're probably upset that they took USC against Tulane last year, and they're like, oh, okay, I'll just take Tulane now because I know they're good. But I mean, we'll have to do like a group of 5 segment or something because I don't think Tulane's going to continue. I don't think they're going to keep it up the way they did last year. So I have Ole Miss beating Tulane. You know, honestly, kind of handedly as well. But I have them 6-6, which I have them beating Arkansas, but I have them losing to Bama, LSU, Auburn, A&M, Georgia, and then at the end of the year, this is the toss-up, but I have Mississippi State beating Ole Miss.
That game is. You could throw out whatever the hell their record was before that game. Those two schools hate each other.
Right. Like that, and I don't know what the past 5 years, I don't know what the record is between them, but to me, it feels like Ole Miss has been the better team. And I now think Mississippi State has the better roster, ever so slightly. So I'm going Mississippi State there and having Ole Miss at 6-6. But like I look at Ole Miss, like before I looked at their schedule, I was like, oh, I'm probably gonna have Ole Miss at like 9-3, 8-4. But no, just can't do it.
Yeah, Ole Miss has a unbelievably difficult schedule because they get Alabama and LSU, then they get Georgia out of the East. Like that's just it's brutal. It is absolutely brutal.
Definitely not ideal at all. So we'll see.
Eli Drinkowitz and Missouri squad is I just don't. I cannot figure out how I feel about him. They have a wide receiver who's a true freshman last year. He's an unbelievable talent. They have a very fun. Missouri has a fun schedule. Like, they play Memphis. That'll be a lot of fun. They play Kansas State. That'll be a fun game. Like, they have some fun out of conference matchups in when the SEC usually doesn't. This is a very interesting team. What do you think about this Mizzou squad?
I mean, call me a conspiracist, but sort of like what you're saying. I think the fact that Missouri is sort of has a loftier out of conference schedule than SEC teams normally have, I think they're going to get rewarded for it. So I do have them starting 5-0, which, again, Kansas State's a tough game. Memphis should be fun.
Wow.
But I just think in my head, I didn't put much thought into it, but I was like, I think Missouri's going to get rewarded for having a tougher schedule here.
That game is at home. Like, that's...
Oh, yeah. No, it's absolutely feasible.
Damn.
So I have them starting 5-0 and being ranked decently high, which is crazy. I don't know what their win total is. But then, like I said, I have these teams going on losing streaks. I have them losing 5 straight, which is just like no team should ever... That shouldn't be possible to just be like, oh, we're 5-0, oh, we're 5-5. Like, that. Yep. I hate that I have that, especially as much as I do. But I have them winning the last 2 and finishing 7-5. Their losses are LSU, Kentucky, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. Obviously, they could easily beat Kentucky. But again, after a loss to LSU, maybe they're not ranked anymore. Maybe they're like, there goes this dream season.
That is also their first true road test. Their home game, their only road game before that is at Vanderbilt. So, like, that is their first true road game of the season.
Right. And so I have them dropping it. Kentucky's like one win that I have them getting. And then I'm high on South Carolina. We'll get there. And then obviously LSU, Tennessee, Georgia are all gauntlet games.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Missouri, their ceiling is like 9-3.
Wow.
And their floor to me is a bowl game, which...
That's fair.
Do you have their over-under on that?
It is 6.5 is their win total.
7-5 feels right.
Yep, I have them at 6, so I'm going under. The only difference we have is the Kansas State game. Yeah. I just have them losing to Kansas State. So it's very interesting. Missouri will be, like, keep your eyes out. Keep your eyes out.
Honestly.
I'll certainly be watching. Like, those are some good early season matchups, especially when a lot of teams get, like, conference play where, like, the Big Ten seems to backload their conference play. So, like, there might not be a ton of interesting games week 3. So Kansas State, Missouri is one that I will have probably on my must-watch list, which we need to do that. When the season comes out, we need to have, like, these are our must-watch games of the week.
Oh, 100%, dude.
I'm totally down for that. Yeah. So it sounds like we have very differing opinions on this next team in South Carolina.
Okay, interesting.
I do not... Everybody is so high on Spencer fucking Rattler because of what he did over a 2-game stretch. And this is how... When I tell you this stat, you are going to look at me and you are going to think that I'm lying to you, and I am not. The entire rest of the SEC schedule or the Tennessee game, where did Spencer Rattler throw more touchdowns? The entire rest of the SEC schedule, the other 7 games or Tennessee, where did he throw more touchdowns?
Well, I can tell what the answer is, but go ahead.
Yeah, the answer is the Tennessee game. He threw more touchdowns against Tennessee than he did the entire rest of the SEC schedule. I understand why people are high on Spencer Rattler, and it's because of all the offseason hype and all the shit that got blown into them. It got that way at Oklahoma, and the fans booed him out of there and got Caleb Williams into the starting spot, which is what should have happened. And then now at South Carolina, they were ready to boo him off the field prior to that Tennessee game. But then he goes in and he blows the doors off of Tennessee, and then they beat a Clemson team that quite frankly, Clemson went into that game asleep. They were not ready
Yeah, and Clemson like threw the ball forward on a punt return. Like that was a pathetic loss.
Yeah, but we got South Carolina in 2022 was not good. Like I don't understand why people they got beat by Notre Dame in the bowl game, but then they lost to one of the worst Florida teams I've seen in the last decade, 38-6. They lost to Florida 38-6.
They were figuring it out. All right,
that offense that was in November. You're figuring it out in November.
Listen. They
scored 10 points on Missouri. They scored 10 points on Missouri.
Georgia only had 10 at half or in the third or whatever it was. I don't know.
Missouri's got a good defense, I will say.
Yeah, hold your horses. I get your point. My thing, Spencer Rattler, you got to admit, right, that if you're not a tough-minded beast, which not everyone is, when you get booed, when you didn't even really do that much, wrong, right? At Oklahoma...
He just wasn't elite. He was just good. They had an undefeated they were undefeated when he got benched.
No, I know. Spencer Rattler did not deserve the treatment he got.
No.
He did a little bit, but and with Caleb Williams, he went to a high school right by me, Gonzaga in D.C., and my buddy was the starting quarterback of that team as a senior, and he got benched for Caleb Williams when Caleb Williams was a freshman. And my buddy was this 14-year-old kid. I hate my life. I quit football, blah, blah, blah. And now it's the Heisman Trophy winner took my spot.
Yeah.
And of course, he should have. I was proudly quit football. But I think Caleb Williams has just gone on this warpath where people have just not seen it coming. So Spencer Rattler at the time was his ego was crushed, and he's a young guy, and he's not getting treated like he should probably. And so he goes to South Carolina, and his confidence is low, and they're figuring it out. And Shane Beamer, who I really like, is trying to get his confidence back up. And then, boom, they blow Tennessee out of the water. They beat Clemson. And then now we're going into the season where Spencer Rattler is a 22-year-old vet. He's older than everyone he's playing, and he has his confidence back. And we know what he can do at his height. And it's really impressive shit. So I am high on South Carolina, and I don't even want to be because I went to Clemson. I don't like this team, but I think they're going to be good. I have them at 8-4.
So what between Kentucky and South Carolina, it looks like we are just opposite sides of the coin here because I am 4-8.
Yeah,
I have them. We'll talk about Vanderbilt. I have South Carolina as the worst record in the SEC.
Oh my God! You have Vanderbilt better than South Carolina?
Yes.
Chat. Flip that.
That's fine. Look, Nick. Let's make a little friendly wager, okay? I will bet you football tickets. Football tickets. All right. I don't know what football tickets.
Okay.
But I bet you football tickets that South Carolina finishes with a worse record than Vanderbilt this season.
Okay, I'll take that bet. Yeah, I don't even have.
Okay, hold on. Even's a push. Even's a push.
Fair.
Okay.
I would bet Super Bowl tickets. If you're that confident,
I do feel good about it. But hey, look, I'll virtually shake your hand, but boy, I ain't got that kind of money. What do we do?
No, you're right. Yeah, I'm not getting you Super Bowl tickets. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But there's no way. All right, we'll have to wait until we get to Vandy. But I said what I said about South Carolina, and I believe it. Something would have to happen. Rattler would have to get hurt, or he'd have to have a 5-interception game where people are like, oh, he sucks again, and then maybe I can see it happening, but I don't foresee that as a possibility.
Their schedule is brutal. They play.
I don't know.
They play Clemson. They get North Carolina.
I have them losing that.
I actually have them winning that.
All right. I have them losing to UNC, Georgia, Tennessee, and Clemson.
The wins that I have them are Jacksonville State, Florida, Furman, and North Carolina. And I have them losing every SEC game. I have them losing to Kentucky. I have them losing to Vanderbilt, Texas A&M.
There's no
Mizzou.
way. Oh my God. I wonder what the spread will be for that Vandy. It's going to be like Vandy plus 24.5 is my guess. You're taking Vandy to win that game.
We'll see.
All right. I like it, though. I like bold takes. I do. But
that
one's bold.
I will say that is probably my most bold take of the offseason is how low I am on South Carolina. Their win total is 6, though. So for what it's worth, we are both 2 games off of the win total, just on different sides.
Fair.
So let's talk Tennessee and the Vols. What a phenomenal year they had last year. They were unbelievable. Joe Milton was a Heisman finalist all the way up until he got hurt. Did he end up being a finalist at the end of the year?
Who?
Was it Hendon
Hooker?
Yeah.
I don't remember. He might have been.
I don't know if he was.
He was hurt at the end.
But he played Heisman caliber football all season. Like he was great. Outside of the Georgia game, he was just absolutely electric.
That Bama Tennessee game last year was like the best game I've seen maybe ever.
It might have been. It might have been the best game in the last decade. The cigars, the scenery around it, like it was a great. And
how much it meant to Tennessee and to win and to have Alabama miss a field goal and then
first time winning that game in 16 years.
Oh my! And the storyline and how well Tennessee played when at that time Tennessee was still people were like, oh, there's no fucking shot. Like they were double-digit underdogs.
Yep, and that it was just a phenomenal game, start to finish. It's not like that just the ending was good. It was a phenomenal game, start to finish.
I was glued. I left the bar, and my buddies were like, why? I was like, I have to watch this game alone. And they were like, they didn't understand. Yeah. But I was just sitting on my couch. I lit up a pumpkin candle and was just like, this is fall football, man. This
Third
is
Saturday in October, baby.
That's what I'm talking about. And the game was amazing, and I cannot wait for it again. I cannot fucking wait. I think we're going to get a repeat.
Games like that are why college football is just so great. Because it means a regular season game like that will never mean that much in the NFL. Ever.
In any sport,
I love the NFL.
Name a sport, it doesn't. College football trumps all. Trumps all in that regard.
So Josh Heupel, I think, is one of the best offensive minds in football at any level. You have Joe Milton, who absolute freak cannon of an arm, but we haven't seen him do it consistently. Obviously, he played great against Clemson in that bowl game, but where do you have this Tennessee team? Because it's crazy.
I have them 11-1, and it sucks. We need conferences to start just get rid of the East and West and whatever. Because if Tennessee was 11-1, they would be playing Georgia. But they'd be playing Georgia in the SEC championship game, but they're not because Georgia's going undefeated. It's tentative for me though, just because I think there's a chance that there's that sort of figure it out effect that you see in football all the time. What comes to mind for me is Lamar Jackson and the Ravens go 14-2, and then the next year it's okay, well, it's not at all as insane. It's still really good, but the almost scoring at will vibe that the Vols had, I think there's a chance that just goes away, and people are like, why? Oh, it's just because the this new inventive scheme has been figured out by opposing coaches. But there's also a higher chance that doesn't happen, and Tennessee only loses to Georgia, which is at home in a game that they actually could win. And this is where it gets chaotic, because this is our third conference prediction now, and I have so many one-loss teams.
Yep.
Where does Tennessee at 11-1 not SEC champion? Do they make the playoff? I don't know, man. They beat Bama on the road. They ran through the SEC. Gosh.
Yeah, Tennessee's schedule before their bye week is a walk in the park. They have 5 straight games: Virginia, Austin, PA, Florida, UTSA, and South Carolina. They will win all of those games by double digits very easily.
I don't know about South Carolina, but
okay. Well, after the bye week, they get Texas A&M at home. Will be a tough game, and then they get Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And the reason that I have Tennessee losing that game is because you get back-to-back weeks where that's 2 tough games against some of the better teams in the conference. Texas A&M at home, and then going into Tuscaloosa and winning is maybe the most difficult thing you can do in college football.
See,
I have them dropping that game.
Yeah, to Bama, fair.
Yep.
I think it's like super bold to have Tennessee go back-to-back against Bama. But we talked about Bama. It's unpredictable. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yep.
My thing is I think maybe like we're both high on A&M, but not at the same level, because I think a home game against Texas A&M for Tennessee isn't as daunting as you do. Just because I just think Tennessee, they're at home and it like that. Playing at Neyland is so tough.
Yeah, it is after a bye too. They do get it after the bye.
I don't know. Like, looking at that game, I was like, Tennessee's going to handle them, and then they go into Georgia. Like, I see your point that if that was a really tough game, or they go into Bama, but I see your point that they could easily just be overwhelmed by that 2-game stretch. But I don't have A&M being that big of a deal. Does that make sense?
But I have them winning every game but Bama and Georgia. This is going to be such a fun team to watch, even without Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman, who both left for the NFL. They're still going to have plenty of talent at wide receiver. They got Squirrel White, who runs the slot for them, and I think both of the guys they have on the outside are pretty decent. They brought in a transfer who should be an impact player for them at the wide receiver position as well.
Yeah, I feel like honestly
they're going to be fun.
Grab a guy off the track team and have him run go routes, because Joe Milton can throw the ball 100 yards from the ground. I especially in Heupel's offense, man, this team's going to be great. I hope that they're not figured out. That's my only worry, is that they might get figured out, because that does happen in football a lot. So. Yep,
that's fair. We'll see. We'll see how that offensive line meshes together too. Losing Darnell Wright at right tackle certainly hurts, but they brought in a transfer center. They should be all right. Up
yeah, they'll be fine. I'm pretty sure they're loaded there.
Yep. Texas A&M. Jimbo is. You want to talk about winning an offseason? Texas A&M is undefeated in the offseason. They've won more offseasons than maybe any team ever. They don't have a single, SEC championship to show for it. But goddamn, can they win an offseason? I like them.
I don't know. I feel like 2 years or last summer, definitely. Texas A&M was getting clowned, I should say. Last summer.
That's fair.
But that's fair. Of course they ended up stinking. But this offseason, different story. Still recruiting their arse off, getting transfers. They have 5 stars out the wazoo, which is always so weird to me for an A&M school, an agriculture school.
Yep.
But
we don't go to play school.
Yeah, no, of course not. I got them at 8-4. What about you?
So their win total's 8. So you got them on the money. I'm gonna be very bold in my prediction with this. I will know after week 2 whether or not my win total bet will hit, because I will probably take the over, but I will know week 2 if that bet is hitting or not, because they play Miami at Miami, and if they look like shit and they drop that game to Miami, who has a far inferior roster. Miami does not have anywhere near the roster that A&M does, just blue chip talent wise. If they lose that game,
at least right now, yeah,
my ass is in the hot seat. But
I have them winning that game.
I have them winning that game as well. But
the only weird one I have. Well,
closely.
You'll think this is weird, but I have USC beating Texas A&M and Auburn beating Texas A&M. So 2 sort of all right, this team is good and they have a lot of talent, but they're still shaky and inconsistent, and they're going to drop some weirder games. I honestly, though, I think USC I might even like them more than A&M. But
South Carolina, that's
Auburn would be a weird one, and then Tennessee and LSU. I know you have Texas A&M beating LSU at the end. Do you have them 9-3?
I have them at 10-2.
10-2. Oh my God.
Yep, I have their 2 losses, Bama and Tennessee, in back-to-back weeks. Those are my 2 losses.
I have A&M beating Bama because I think they're up for it. They almost beat them last year. Should have beat them last year. But yeah, I trust Jimbo. I trust this team, especially if not this year, next type of vibe.
Yep. I like Connor Wegman at quarterback too. I think he is the right guy for that job. You don't need who's the Texas A&M quarterback who beat Alabama like twice, and it wasn't Johnny, but there was another guy after Johnny who was like pretty solid.
Not Kellen Mond, right?
No, Kellen Mond was never that good. I don't understand.
I don't know. He was pretty good, but I can't pinpoint the guy who was in between Johnny and Mond. So
what the hell was his name?
I keep thinking Chad Kelly for Ole Miss,
which he was electric.
Yeah.
God damn it! What was his name?
Kyle
Allen. It was Kyle Allen.
Kyle Allen. All right.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
2014, 2015. Yeah, he was a good quarterback.
He played some NFL football for the Panthers, I remember.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, again, A&M Bama, that's all. It's always been like a good competitive game. I don't know enough about Wegman to feel like that was not a part of my decision. It's more just I think Bama's going to drop a game they shouldn't.
And that would be the one.
Because of their roster makeup, and that's the one that I have them dropping.
At Kyle Field, tough place to play.
Yeah, it's on the road, and it's again, A&M should have got them last year. So,
all right, let's rip this last team, Vanderbilt. We got to talk about them. I did not think if you had like, hey, what teams on this list are we going to be contentious about? Vanderbilt would not have been on my list. They would not have been on my list. I would have thought we were kind of on the same page here. I love Clark Lee as a head coach. They just gave him another contract extension, I believe, for like another 4 years. I like Vanderbilt quite a bit. I really do.
Vanderbilt shouldn't be in the SEC. The SEC is too hard for them. They should be in the Conference USA where they can actually win games. They can't do it in the SEC. They'll never be able to do it in the SEC. I don't care how good their coach is. It's too much talent for a team like Vandy who does not have the infrastructure to hold up. So I have them winning one SEC game against Kentucky.
Vanderbilt is in the SEC. I also have them winning one SEC game. Vanderbilt is in the SEC for 2 reasons. One, so that they can host the SEC championship in Nashville at Bridgestone Arena for basketball. That is reason number 1. And reason number 2, it's so that when people go, the SEC does not give a fuck about school. They are the worst academic institutions in the country. They can go, no, we have Vanderbilt.
Yep.
That is why.
The Harvard of the South.
That is why.
They got a great baseball program. I'll give them that.
They do. And they
have a fantastic baseball program. So
that they do.
The SEC baseball is amazing. So like I get it. It's just football. Just Nashville. I don't know. I guess people don't want to go there for football. It's a nice city.
Their stadium's like a 38,000
like
seat
I said,
stadium.
they don't have the infrastructure for it, and until there's drastic change, they will continue to stink. I feel very confident in that. It's been that way my entire life. They're going 4-8. I have them winning 3 non-conference
we're not that
games.
far off.
No, I don't have them winless or anything like Northwestern. Again, I mean, it's still Vandy. You know, it's an SEC school, but they're going to win one SEC game, and probably not even. But I have them beating Kentucky.
Yep. So my SEC win that I have them over is South Carolina.
I know.
So
I know
that is mine. But I think they go undefeated in out of conference play. They get Hawaii at home in week 0, then Alabama, A&M, UNL. Wake Forest is going to be a tough game because it's at Wake Forest. But I
have Wake Forest. Smoking them.
Okay, so then we did the ACC beating UNLV. So I don't hate this squad. Like it's not a bad. They're actually decent defensively. They got a couple pass rushers that like aren't the worst things in the world.
They have a good team, just not for the SEC. You know, that's just how it's always been.
The problem is like Vanderbilt's such a small school that like your alumni base is never going to give that much of a shit. And the other thing with Nashville is like it's not like people who live in Nashville are from Nashville. Like people who live in Nashville are from every other SEC school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are more Georgia alumni in Nashville than Vanderbilt alumni in Nashville.
Yeah, no, you're
for
right.
sure. I mean, shit, there are probably more Clemson alumni in Nashville. I don't know how big. Clemson's not that big, so maybe not.
Well, I don't think Clemson's not close enough to Nashville for that to be like a common place to go.
No,
but
that's fair. That's fair.
I don't know. It might be. I don't know. I've never been. I would like to at some point, not for a Vandy game, just for other reasons.
Highly recommend.
But yeah, I mean, so you got them 5-7. I am 4-8. I mean, if they go, I feel like you ask any Vandy fan or Vandy student, like, what's your record going to be this year? They're going to say anywhere from 3 to 5 wins. Maybe there's a couple people that are like, we're going to win 6 and get to a bowl. But I mean, no, you won't.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that is fair. If you guys love this content, we're going to do we have the Big 12 and the Pac-12 next. Which one do you want to do, Nick? Let's do a little live deliberation here.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like the one that I would want more time to figure out is the Big 12, and the Pac-12's kind of, I don't know if you're seeing what happened today with Colorado's gone, Utah's probably following.
Yeah.
They're like, I feel like it's topical, so
yeah.
I hope we go Pac-12 next.
Yep, let's do Pac-12 next, and then we'll do the Big 12 after. But make sure you guys, if you love this content, be sure to hit the subscribe button. We're closing in on 150. My goal is to have 150 subscribers after, by the time the Pac-12 video comes out. So let's get to 150. We'll release the Notre Dame preview as well. That'll be topical because we'll have to talk about them when they play USC. It'll be all sorts of fun. So if you want to see more content, be sure to follow us on our social medias at Smash Hit Sports for me, Nick During the Day for Nick. The TikTok game has been popping off. So be sure to give us a follow, like, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.
Yes, sir. You won't regret it.